All right. On the Open World Cruise, it's Saturday, June 29th, 2024. We're in Siracusa, Sicily, which is Sicily is the football off the toe of Italy. And we are on the southern part of the coast of Sicily. And what you can tell by this time lapse is that the southern coast is pretty flat. You got to get around the side more north until you get to Mount Etna, until it picks up in altitude. But anyway, we didn't know where we were going to go today because we didn't do the research. The port was changed. This is the city of Noto, which was completely destroyed by an earthquake in 1693. And so they just left the rubble pile where it was. It's an archaeological site today. And they rebuilt it during the 1700s in this Baroque style. There's a pelican, a dog, and a castle piece up on top of that are symbolic of certain things. Anyway, she brought us here to show us this Baroque style because it was all rebuilt in the 1700s after being destroyed in 1693. And so they use a certain kind of sandstone that was mined in the local quarries there that's supposed to look kind of yellowish in the sun, which it does. And she took us down this side alley to show us that the Baroque style disappeared after the main street. And there you go. There's Italy for you. You got to watch where you walk. I don't know why they don't clean up after their pets. Although I have to admit, it was better today than it's been in the past. So. Anyway, when you get one block off the main street, that Baroque style of architecture disappears because here live the more, working class people, and they didn't care about Baroque style. They just wanted a roof over their heads. So this is a small courtyard with a well. There you go. That's what it looked like a few minutes later. Somebody stepped in it. Anyway, continuing down the main street, this statue that you see there up on that pedestal is a statue of Mary. And it was supposed to be miraculous because it was one of the few things that wasn't destroyed in the 1693 earthquake. And so at this first church, whose name I did not get, they put the statue of Mary out there right in the front because it was miraculously preserved from that earthquake. Now, we're back in Italy. It's the land of cathedrals. Land of cathedrals and duomos. I'm going to take you inside this one because you got to see the frescoes on the ceiling and the stained glass and the sheer beauty of the creation. This was redesigned. You see those two bell towers they used to be separate, but they fell on the surrounding buildings, so they incorporated those bell towers into the design so if another earthquake happened, they wouldn't fall on somebody's house. Anyway, this is a beautiful structure. I'm just going to take a quick walk through it, and I'm going to focus you on the frescoes up in the nave in the front by the altar and on the ceiling. They're not done by Michelangelo, but they are certainly beautiful. Now, they had up and down these aisles, they had these paintings. I'm not sure who painted them, but they were of the 14 stations of the cross that the Catholics have. There are 7 on the left side over there and 7 on this right side. And I took pictures of them. I was going to put them in here, but the pictures didn't turn out good enough to see the detail on them, so I didn't add them. There's the frescoes on the ceiling. And if you look straight up, it is also amazing. Beautiful stained glass as well. Amazing the craftsmanship that humankind has put into worshiping God and in their many forms, whether they're Muslim or whether they're Christian. Some of the most magnificent things in the world are built as a form of worship. Now look at that ceiling. Can you imagine putting scaffold up and going up there and putting those frescoes up? It's like the Sistine Chapel in miniature, but beautiful artwork. All right, well, we're done with the Duomo. This is the city hall for Noto City that was again rebuilt in the 1700s in its Baroque style, but this was rebuilt, I think, towards the end of the 1700s. It's a beautiful day, and this street here leads up to this street leads up to the house, the castle, the mansion, whatever, of the leader of the town. Most prominent nobleman there or whatever. You see those balconies on the left side. They wouldn't let him build his house on level because he had purchased the title of his whatever his nobility was, and so he had to build his castle on this slope street. Once a year they cover that street with flowers like the Rose Parade. They close it down and do all sorts of paintings with flowers, and you can walk up the sidewalks and see. And these statues that are underneath those balconies are all unique. I guess they're considered like priceless now because there's no others like them anywhere. All carved by the same guy. There's the four brothers, I guess, and there's some women there. There's some flying horses coming up. There's some creatures that are part human or part animal, part snake. And there's the flying horses, and then on the end there's little children. So this house was the biggest one in the whole city. These guys were in the tuna business, and this is the entrance to their courtyard. So all these big, like, family castles had a inner courtyard. In the old days, when there were no cars, they were all, their horses and animals and stuff were kept in the courtyard, and there's stables and stuff in there. But there's a beautiful courtyard. The thing on the right is the well. It's got a big old jasmine plant growing out of it now. But pretty nice digs for those days, albeit on a hill that wouldn't let him build on the flat because he had purchased his nobility rather than being born into it. So our next stop, we're heading, but there's a leaning tower, the Eiffel Tower of Siracusa there. Somebody's building it out of metal. So we're headed back to some ruins now that date back to between the 800 before Christ and 500 before and 100 before Christ. This is a quarry. I don't know if you can see it up on top of that column there. There's a building, and that's how deep the quarry was dug by the slaves and whatnot that were mining the stone for all the buildings in the city. That's sandstone. And I'm going to show you this cave that, as part of that 1693 earthquake, a lot of it collapsed because they made these huge caverns underground with pillars to hold up the ceiling. But when the earthquake hit, a lot of it collapsed. This particular cave here was used in one of the Indiana Jones movies. I think the last one is where they filmed part of it in this. But this whole thing was excavated. You can see the rows where they took the blocks out. It was excavated over hundreds of years by thousands of slaves. And the way she explained it, once the slaves got in there, they cut stone until they died. And it's huge. Can't even imagine how long it would take them with a hammer and a chisel to cut row after row of block out of here. That's why a lot of the old unused constructions were dismantled. As you'll see in a few minutes, there's like a miniature coliseum and also a big amphitheater. And when they weren't used anymore, they took them apart and used the stones to build other buildings. So this amphitheater is about 500 BC, and it used to be a lot taller than it is. That upper row up there where those caves are was dismantled and the stones used elsewhere. But this is still used for performances now. They cover the stone over with wood once a year, and then they remove it when they're done with their performances here. But you'll be able to see some of the stone rows. This is a Colosseum that was built about 100 before Christ and actually predates the Colosseum in Rome. And it also was disassembled. The level of it used to be up above those trees you can see in the background there. You can see all the rows and whatnot going down, and the floor, they said, was sand, so it would absorb the blood. And this is where gladiators fought gladiators, and gladiators fought animals imported from Africa. So it's another Colosseum. And so we're going to finish up here. We went back into the city of Siracusa. This square was designed by Mussolini. That's why I stuck it in here. Mussolini himself designed the fountain, and he had the buildings around it designed during his tenure as fascist leader of Italy. So this is Mussolini's design, but it is a nice fountain. We ate lunch over there at that restaurant you can see on the right. It's a nice fountain, nice sculptures. It's very pleasant to look at. So we looked at a lot more things downtown, including a Christian church that was built over a Greek temple to Athena. This is the view of us leaving. It's a little bit more interesting than the arrival one. You could see that's Old Town Siracusa right there. So tomorrow we're headed to Naples, so stay tuned, and we'll try and bring you some interesting stuff from Naples and Pompeii. We're going to go see the ruins of Pompeii.